All right. Hi, my name is Sarah Dorman, and I am presenting my paper on the evolution of the cell wall. I put together a PowerPoint for y'all. Hope it's not too boring. It shouldn't be. I think it's pretty exciting. It's not as exciting as some animals, but plants are still pretty cool. Yeah, so I did the cell wall evolution of vascular and non-vascular photosynthetic organisms. This sounds kind of like a lengthy title, but it's basically how plants evolved from being single-celled, like organisms that lived in the water, to the plants that you see today. All right, so I'm just going to go through my paper kind of like the way I wrote it. So I just kind of put my paper on this PowerPoint and condensed it down. So these photosynthetic organisms, or you can also call them plants, have always been on this earth, but they have just been increasing in diversity. And then the cell walls are what's really important about them, of how they evolved and how they have contributed to what is now land plants. So you need this cell wall to have land plants. You can't just have a cell membrane. And then this cell wall is made of cellulose and lignin, which are two components that make it strong and flexible. And then also what drove evolution of land plants is the fight against water loss. And that's still going on today with most plants that exist, besides the ones that are in the forest mostly, with lots of water and rainfall. And then the three layered cell walls also will contribute to it. All right, sorry for all the text on this one. I'll just try to go through this pretty quick. So in the introduction of my paper, I just kind of talked about the complexity about all these species and their difficulty in classifying, and then how organisms must continue to evolve to survive. We learned this previously in our class. And then a lot of the principles that had to do with animal evolution also applied to this evolution. And then plants make up 99.9% of the biomass in the world. Most of it is found in the oceans, which sometimes you wouldn't think of. They require chloroplasts to take the sunlight and then turn it into energy and storage and growth to be counted as a photosynthetic organisms. And then there's different classes of photosynthetic organisms, and they're not all plants, so it's kind of confusing. So there's land plants, algae, and fungi. And with those three classes, there's even more to it. And then cell walls plants need these cell walls for support, growth, and protection against bacteria, fungi, and all different kinds of diseases. And they help speed up evolution. Okay, and then the history behind kind of like why I chose this topic and history of land plants is because land and aquatic plants estimated to be split about 912 million years ago. And then after this first initial split, these splits, like into the different land plants and fungi and bacteria, occurred at a faster and faster rate. And then the phylogeny, or the classifying of all these, is hard to do, but can be tracked using different proteins and different monosaccharides and just different components of the cell wall to look at all of these different species in history. So if they have the same like peptide or protein as an ancestor, they must be related. Or if there's two current species that have the same peptide, they must be related. And then, like I said, there's three parts of the cell wall. They have the primary cell wall, the middle lamella, and the secondary cell wall. And then, like I just said, like what is in these cell walls and how they're arranged is used to map the divergence of plant species. All right, then more about the history. They have been evolved to combat the loss of water and independent of water sources. So you don't need to constantly be in water to reproduce and carry out their life cycle. And then they also developed the cell wall to remove themselves from surrounding organisms to better like evolve on their own and get away. And then these plants have added to the cell membranes, and this came about the evolution. Well, okay, so first there was photosynthetic organisms that just live in water, and then it evolved to algae, mosses, and ferns, and then to the plants that we see today, such as shrubs and trees and grass. And then with this evolution into becoming these shrubs, trees, and grasses, they needed to evolve some way to combat this water loss because they're not like constantly surrounded by water anymore. So they developed these lignified cell walls, also cuticles and stomata. Cuticle is the waxy covering of the leaf, and then the stomata is the opening underneath the leaf that allows carbon dioxide and air exchange. And then if the stomata is open too much water loss can occur and kill the plant. All right, so now to the cell wall structure. There's three parts to it: the middle lamella, the outer, and the inner. And plants need these to strengthen bodies and provide support. And then some cells have lignin, which you can see in most of the bigger plants, such as trees, like if you think of like the redwoods, those are some of the largest trees. And then cellulose is also needed. And it provides the main structure component to these cell walls. And without this, there would be no large plants, and plants would have no way to combat against environment and all these other diseases and things that try to attack them. And then cellulose is made up of glucose and arranged in different patterns to provide strength to these walls. And the different patterns are unique to each species. And then these cell walls allow better competition against different species.